Imagine a weapon so powerful, it could bring an entire nation to its knees without firing a single shot. A weapon capable of creating devastating, city-drowning floods on command, or of slowly and silently choking off the lifeblood of millions by turning a mighty river into a mere trickle. This isn't a plot from a dystopian thriller. This is the geopolitical reality taking shape right now, carved into the remote, sacred mountains of the Himalayas. China has officially broken ground on the largest, most ambitious, and potentially most dangerous dam project in human history. This is a story of water, power, and fear. Perched on the roof of the world, on the mighty Brahmaputra River, known as the Yarlung Zangbo in Tibet, a project is underway that makes even China's infamous Three Gorges Dam look like a practice run. With a staggering price tag of over 167 billion dollars, Beijing is constructing a series of hydropower stations that has sent profound shockwaves of alarm throughout its downstream neighbors, most notably India and Bangladesh. This isn't just an infrastructure project designed to generate electricity. It's a monumental power play, a concrete manifestation of strategic dominance that has the potential to redraw the geopolitical map of Asia and create a new, terrifying flashpoint between two nuclear-armed rivals. So today, we are going to dissect this colossus of concrete and steel. What exactly is China building in the sacred, inaccessible gorges of Tibet, right on India's doorstep? Why is New Delhi absolutely convinced that this dam is not just for power, but could be used as a strategic weapon, giving Beijing the ultimate control over India's water security and its very fate? And perhaps most terrifyingly of all are the engineers building this behemoth on one of the world's most seismically active fault lines, making a reckless gamble that could lead to an unimaginable, continent-altering catastrophe. Stick with us as we uncover the story of the dam that could change the flow of water and history forever. The sheer scale of this endeavor is difficult to comprehend. The announcement of the project's formal commencement was made by none other than Chinese Premier Li Chong at a groundbreaking ceremony in Ningxi City, a region in Tibet that sits precariously close to the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, a territory that is itself a subject of bitter dispute between the two nations. This is not just one dam. It's a complex of 5 cascading hydropower stations, a staircase of immense reservoirs and turbines built along the lower reaches of the Yarlung Zangbo. Think of it as a chain reaction of control. Water released from the highest dam flows into the reservoir of the next, and so on, giving operators the ability to minutely manage or catastrophically disrupt the entire river system in a coordinated manner. The total investment is projected to be around 1.2 trillion yuan, which translates to that eye-watering figure of nearly 168 billion dollars. For perspective, this single project's cost rivals the entire annual GDP of a country like Hungary or Ukraine. Its stated purpose is to generate an astonishing 300 billion kilowatt-hours of electricity annually, enough to meet the yearly energy needs of over 300 million people. Chinese state media, Xinhua, proudly declared that this electricity would be primarily for external consumption, meaning it will be transmitted thousands of kilometers east to fuel the powerhouse coastal provinces and industrial megacities of mainland China, while also serving local needs in Tibet, which Beijing officially calls Shizang. But the location is what elevates this from a domestic energy project to a global concern. The dam is being constructed in a truly epic landscape. The Brahmaputra River carves its way across the vast Tibetan plateau and then plunges into the Yarlung Zangbo Grand Canyon, the deepest canyon on Earth. Here, the river makes a dramatic hairpin turn, a great U-bend, before it flows south into India's Arunachal Pradesh, and then onwards through Assam and finally into Bangladesh, where it merges with the Ganges. By building this megadam at this precise strategic turning point, China effectively positions itself as the gatekeeper, the master of the river's flow, right before it becomes the lifeline for tens of millions of people downstream. This isn't a new fear, but a terrifying escalation. Back in 2015, China operationalized its $1.5 billion Zam hydropower station, which at the time was the largest in Tibet. Even then, alarm bells were ringing loudly in New Delhi. But this new project is in a completely different league. It is, by every measure, the largest single infrastructure project being undertaken anywhere on the planet. Its potential to hold its neighbors hostage is what truly terrifies Indian strategists. The Brahmaputra is not just a river for India and Bangladesh, it's a cultural and agricultural artery. In Assam, its vast fertile plains are the rice bowl of the region. The river is woven into the spiritual fabric of the communities. Known as the son of Brahma, it is a rare male river deity in a subcontinent of river goddesses. Now, imagine a scenario. Tensions flare up along the disputed Himalayan border, as they did so violently in the Galwan Valley conflict just a few years ago. In a conventional conflict, armies would clash. But with this dam, China gains a new, asymmetric tool of coercion. During a severe drought in India, Beijing could choose to restrict the river's flow, exacerbating the water crisis and applying immense political pressure without a single soldier crossing the border. It could turn lush green paddy fields into cracked earth. Conversely, and perhaps even more frighteningly, during the monsoon season, China could release massive volumes of water from its reservoirs. This could trigger catastrophic artificial floods in downstream Indian states like Arunachal Pradesh and Assam, washing away villages, destroying crops, and causing immense chaos. It would be a weaponized natural disaster, a way to cripple a region and distract a nation during a time of conflict. This gives Beijing a terrifying lever of power, the ability to manipulate the very environment of its rival. And let's not forget Bangladesh, the nation at the very end of the line. As a low-lying delta country, it is exceptionally vulnerable to any change in the Brahmaputra's flow, facing the double-edged sword of intensified floods during the wet season and life-threatening water scarcity during the dry season. It's a chilling thought, giving one nation such power over another's survival. If you're finding this breakdown of the geopolitical stakes as mind-boggling as we are, do us a favor and hit that like button. It helps us understand what topics you find most critical. The existing diplomatic mechanisms feel utterly inadequate to address a threat of this magnitude. Since 2006, India and China have had an expert-level mechanism, or ELM, in place. Under this agreement, China is supposed to provide India with hydrological data, information on water levels and flow rates for the Brahmaputra and Sutlej rivers, especially during the flood season. This very issue of data sharing was a key topic of discussion during high-level talks between India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. But this system is built on a foundation of trust, a commodity that is in dangerously short supply between the two giants. With this new dam, simple data sharing becomes almost irrelevant. The data might show a flood is coming, but it won't change the fact that the floodgates are controlled from Beijing. India is not sitting entirely idle. It is also constructing its own large dam on the Brahmaputra in Arunachal Pradesh, partly as a defensive measure to assert its own rights to the water and potentially mitigate the effects of China's actions by creating its own storage capacity. But this precipitates a dangerous dam race in one of the world's most volatile regions, a race to control water, the most essential element of life itself. Beyond the immense geopolitical anxieties, there is another, perhaps even more elemental fear at play, a high-stakes gamble with Mother Nature herself. The chosen location for this monumental dam is, geologically speaking, one of the most unstable and hazardous places on the planet. The Tibetan Plateau is often called the roof of the world for a reason, and it sits directly on a major tectonic boundary where the Indian plate is continuously and violently grinding beneath the Eurasian plate. This is a hotbed of seismic activity. Earthquakes are not a remote possibility here. They are a frequent and expected occurrence. The entire region is riddled with fault lines. Making matters worse is a phenomenon known as reservoir-induced seismicity. The sheer, unimaginable weight of trillions of liters of water stored in these new, massive reservoirs can increase the pressure on the underlying rock formations and fault lines, potentially triggering earthquakes that might not have otherwise occurred. So, the question that sends a shiver down the spine of every seismologist and environmentalist is this: what happens if a major earthquake, a truly powerful one, strikes the world's largest dam? The failure of a single one of these 5 cascade dams could be catastrophic. But the failure of one could trigger a domino effect, a sequential collapse of the entire system, releasing an inland ocean of water in a single, devastating wave. The resulting flood would be of biblical proportions, a wall of water roaring down the world's deepest canyon, wiping out everything in its path through India and Bangladesh with an unimaginable destructive force. Chinese officials and the project's backers, like the Power Construction Corporation of China, have attempted to allay these fears. An official statement released late last year claimed that the project prioritizes ecological protection and that comprehensive geological surveys and technological innovations have established a secure and scientifically grounded foundation for the dam's development. But many critics view this as sheer hubris. The awesome power of plate tectonics and the unpredictability of major seismic events are forces that even the most advanced engineering on Earth cannot fully tame. Building the world's largest water-retaining structure in an earthquake-prone, mountainous region within the planet's deepest canyon, which also happens to be one of the rainiest areas in the region, is a convergence of extreme risks. It's an engineering challenge of the highest order, but it's also a gamble of epic proportions, where the stakes are the lives of millions and the stability of an entire ecosystem. As the first batches of concrete are poured into the foundations in Yingqi, a new reality is being set in stone. This project encapsulates the central dilemma of our time, the relentless pursuit of resources and strategic advantage, clashing with profound environmental risks and deep-seated geopolitical fears. Is this the dawn of a new era of green energy dominance for China, a triumph of engineering that will power its future? Or is it the deliberate construction of a geopolitical weapon, a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of its neighbors, built on a foundation so precarious it threatens a natural disaster of unprecedented scale? The future flow of the Brahmaputra, and with it, the fate of a region, may soon be decided not by nature, but by the hands of operators in a control room in Beijing. The consequences of that shift will ripple far, far beyond the river's banks. To continue following this critical story and get deep dives into other global developments that will define our future, make sure you are subscribed to our channel and have those notifications turned on. You truly will not want to miss what we uncover